The day the intern dumped an iced latte down my blouse. She smiled for her phone and announced, loud enough for the waiting room to hear, that her husband owned this hospital. My name is Lorelei Arden. I am 33 years old, and I run patient safety for one of the largest private hospitals in Manhattan. Most people imagine my job is paperwork and stern emails. It is not. My job is the thin line between chaos and tragedy. It is alarms that go off in my bones before they hit the walls. It is reading a room the way a surgeon reads a monitor. It is knowing who is lying before they finish the sentence. That morning, I was coming back from a 3-day conference in Chicago on sentinel events and malpractice exposure. I should have gone home first. I should have hugged my son, taken off my heels, and let my mind go quiet. But I had a habit I could not break. Whenever I traveled, I stopped at the hospital unannounced before I went anywhere else. No assistant, no entourage, no heads up. If I wanted the truth, I had to show up like a normal person and listen to what the building sounded like when no one was performing for me. Outside, the August air sat heavy on the street, smelling like hot asphalt and sweet exhaust. Inside, the lobby was cold, bright, and busy in that specific way hospitals are busy. Like everyone is moving fast but trying not to look scared. The front desk phones rang. The security gates clicked. A child cried somewhere near radiology. Someone's shoes squeaked on the polished floor like a warning. I wore a simple cream blazer, black slacks, and flats. My hair was in a low knot, my face bare except for concealer under my eyes. To anyone watching, I looked like an exhausted visitor. I liked it that way. I dragged my small carry-on past the coffee kiosk and paused near the volunteer desk, letting the scene wash over me. Then I saw him, Dr. Soren Maddox. He was on one knee beside an elderly man who had slumped sideways in a wheelchair near the entrance. Soren's hand was under the man's jaw, tilting his head gently to open the airway, his other hand already snapping a pulse ox onto a finger. His voice cut through the crowd with calm authority. Call a rapid response. Now, sir, stay with me, look at my face, breathe with me. A nurse sprinted past, ponytails swinging. A tech rolled a crash cart. The lobby instinctively widened around them like water parting around a rock. Soren didn't look up once. He stayed locked on the man's face as if nothing else in the world mattered. I felt that familiar surge of pride and relief. This was why I did what I did. This was what the hospital was supposed to be. Competent hands, clear minds, quiet courage. But while Soren was saving a life, the opposite kind of attention was gathering near the revolving doors. A laugh, sharp and performative, sliced through the air. No. I literally told you shade. Shade. Do you understand English? A young woman stood with her phone held high, the camera angled down so her face looked sharper, prettier, more important. Her badge swung at her hip, new and bright, with the word intern printed in large letters. She wore a tight pastel dress that belonged in a nightclub, not a hospital. Her lips were glossy. Her lashes were thick. Her voice had that sing-song cruelty that made every word feel like a slap. An older security officer, gray-haired and broad-shouldered, stood in front of her with his hands at his sides, patience worn thin but still intact. His name patch read Alvarez. I recognized him instantly. He'd worked here longer than I'd been married. Ma'am, he said carefully, we don't valet personal vehicles at this entrance. That's policy. I can call transport if you need assistance. She rolled her eyes so hard it looked painful. Policy? Oh my God, are you new? This is my husband's hospital. I'm not walking across the block in this heat. Then she spun toward her phone again, flipping a switch like an actress hitting her mark. Hey besties. Okay, you are not gonna believe this. I'm literally on my first week as a hospital intern, like saving lives and stuff, and this security guy is being so weird and rude. Like, sir, I am not a random. I am family. A few heads turned. Some people ignored her. Some watched with that guilty fascination people get when drama starts in a public place and they know they should look away but can't. My jaw tightened. An intern, on duty. Live streaming, shamming staff in the main lobby. I looked back at Soren. He had the man's oxygen up now, the color returning slowly to the patient's face. Soren's shoulders were tense, but his hands were steady. He glanced up briefly, and I saw the flicker of irritation in his eyes as the intern's voice echoed. I started walking. I didn't stride like an executive. I didn't announce myself. I moved like a tired woman who had reached her limit. As I approached, Alvarez's eyes found mine. Recognition flashed across his face, quick and startled. His posture shifted, instinctively respectful. I lifted one finger slightly, a small warning. Not yet. He swallowed and nodded. The intern kept talking to her phone, smiling brightly, like she was the main character in a show no one else agreed to be in. And honestly, she said, lips pouting, some people here forget their place, but it's fine. I'm gonna handle it nicely because I'm classy. I stopped a few feet away, close enough that my voice wouldn't have to compete. Excuse me, I said. She didn't turn. She kept smiling at her screen. I repeated it firmer. Excuse me. This time she glanced over, annoyed, like I was a fly. Her eyes traveled over my blazer, my suitcase, my bare face. She made a decision about me in half a second. What? She said flatly, still holding her phone up. I'm filming. I can see that, I said. This is a hospital lobby. Patients are everywhere. Staff are working. You're on the clock. Put the phone away. Her smile widened, not friendly. Dangerous. Oh, she said, turning her camera slightly so I was in frame. Okay, guys, we have a situation. Some random lady is trying to tell me what to do. I kept my voice even. I'm not random, and you're not in a studio. You're in a place where privacy matters. Turn it off. She laughed. Privacy? Baby, this is America. And also, my husband is literally the CEO, so I'm not turning off anything. The words hit like a cold spoon down my spine. My husband, the CEO, my hospital. I studied her face. 22, maybe. The kind of confidence that doesn't come from competence, only from believing someone will rescue you from consequences. Behind her, Alvarez's jaw clenched. He looked like he wanted to disappear. I said, "What's your name?" She lifted her badge with 2 fingers and gave it a little shake for the camera. Tinsley Holland. Remember it, because you're about to look real stupid. Something inside me settled. Not rage, not shock, a quiet clarity. I had seen this pattern before. People didn't become monsters overnight. They became monsters because someone rewarded them for it. Someone important. Someone who wanted to feel powerful through them. I asked, "Who told you could speak to staff like this?" She leaned closer, lowering her voice like she was letting me in on a secret, but loud enough that the people nearby still heard. My husband, she said, eyes sparkling. He runs this whole place. If I say jump, people jump. So I'm gonna say this once. Get out of my face. Then, because she couldn't help herself, she added, sweetly to the phone, some women can't stand seeing a younger girl winning. It's giving jealous. The air around us shifted. A few nurses paused near the elevators. Someone behind me murmured, "Is she serious?" I inhaled slowly. "Turn the camera off," I said again, softer. "Last chance." Her smile hardened into a smirk. She reached down, picked up her iced latte from the kiosk counter, and lifted it like a prop. "Make me," she whispered, and then she stepped into me, not a bump. A deliberate collision, her shoulder pressed, her wrist tilted. Cold coffee poured down my chest, soaking my blouse, sliding under my blazer, dripping to my waistband. For half a second, my body reacted before my mind did. The shock of cold, the sticky sweetness, the smell of caramel syrup and espresso rising like humiliation. A couple people gasped. Tinsley jerked backward as if I'd attacked her, eyes wide, mouth open. Then she started crying instantly, perfectly, like she had practiced. "Oh my God," she screamed. "She just assaulted me." She shoved her phone forward, capturing my stained clothes, my suitcase, my face. "Guys, look, this psycho lady just tried to hit me. In a hospital. I am literally an intern. I'm literally healthcare. And she's attacking me." I didn't move. I didn't wipe my blouse. I didn't scramble to defend myself, because the moment I reacted like a normal person, she would win. That was the whole point. Across the lobby, Soren had finished stabilizing the patient. He looked up now, eyes narrowing, scanning the crowd until he found me. His face changed. Not surprise, something deeper. A restrained anger that made his posture go rigid. He started walking toward us fast. Tinsley saw him coming and raised her chin. Still crying, still filming. "Oh good," she sobbed. "A doctor, finally. Tell her she can't treat staff like this. Tell her she's done." Soren stopped beside me, tall and steady in his scrubs, his voice low but carrying. "What happened here?" he asked. "And why are you recording?" Tinsley snapped, "Because she spilled coffee on me and then tried to threaten me. But it's fine. My husband is coming. He's the CEO. He's going to have her banned from this hospital forever." Soren's eyes flicked to my blouse, then to my face. He read me the way he always had. He didn't ask if I was okay out loud, but his jaw tightened like the question was stuck behind his teeth. I looked at Tinsley and said, calm as glass, "You want your husband." Her crying hitched. "Yes, perfect," I said. "Let's call him together." At that moment, With my clothes dripping and my skin cold under the coffee, my heartbeat stayed steady. Not because I wasn't hurt, because I was done being surprised. Hold on, tiny break. I read the comments when I'm worn out, and seeing your location reminds me I'm not telling these stories into an empty room. Like, subscribe and drop your city, state, or country. All right? Now let me take you back. My marriage had been quiet on purpose. My husband, Sterling Rhodes, had taken the CEO role 6 months earlier after the board voted out the previous executive for mishandling a billing investigation. Sterling was brilliant on paper, charming in rooms that mattered, and careful with optics. Too careful. He insisted we keep our relationship low profile in the hospital world. No pictures at events, no public acknowledgements, no shared last name on any press release. It protects you, he'd told me, hand warm around mine at our kitchen counter. People are vicious about nepotism. They'll say you only have your job because you married me. I'd believed him, or maybe I'd wanted to, because the darker truth was simpler. Sterling liked the power of being perceived as unattached. He liked people leaning in. He liked doors opening. He liked women laughing too loud. And he liked knowing I would swallow my discomfort and call it sacrifice. So when Tinsley said, with absolute confidence, that her husband was the CEO, my mind did not scream. It clicked. I pulled my phone out slowly. The screen was smeared with travel dust. My fingers were steady as I opened my contacts. Soren watched me, silent, his eyes guarded. Alvarez stood off to the side, face pale, like he knew a storm was about to hit and there was nowhere to hide. Tinsley lifted her phone higher, trying to catch my screen. Yeah, call him, she taunted. Call Sterling, tell him you're sorry. I didn't correct her. Not yet. I tapped Sterling's name. The ringtone sounded louder than it should have in that cold lobby. 1 ring, 2, 3. Tinsley's smirk started to fade, because she recognized the sound. Not the ringtone, the pause, the wait, the way people waited. Sterling answered on the 4th ring, voice low and irritated, like I was interrupting something important. Lorelei, he said, I'm in a meeting. I turned on speaker. Every head around us tilted closer. I looked straight at the intern who had just soaked me in coffee and said, into the phone, clear and calm, you should come down to the main lobby and see this. There was a beat of silence. Sterling exhaled sharply. See what? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't tremble. I let the words land like a verdict. Your new wife is here, I said, and she just threw coffee on me. Sterling did not speak for a full second. In that 1 second, I could hear the faint echo of voices behind him, the muffled clink of a glass on a conference table. The kind of silence that happens when a powerful room suddenly realizes it has accidentally been dragged into someone's private disaster. Then he said my name again, slower, like he was testing it. Lorelei, what are you doing down there? I watched Tinsley's face change in real time. The smug tilt of her chin wobbled. Her glossy lips parted slightly. She knew that voice. Not from board meetings or hospital newsletters, from close range, from intimacy. From the kind of pillow talk promises that make reckless people believe they're untouchable. Her phone trembled. The live stream camera swung, trying to frame me and my coffee-soaked blouse like I was the villain. I kept my voice measured. I'm standing in the main lobby. You have staff and patients watching. You have an intern filming them without consent. You have a security officer being humiliated. And you have a woman calling herself your wife. Sterling's breath hissed through the speaker, sharp and angry. Turn off the speaker. No, I said. Soren's presence at my shoulder was steady and silent, like a wall. I could feel the heat of his anger, controlled but real. It was the same expression he got when someone tried to cut corners in a cath lab. The look that said, you can lie to yourself, but you can't lie to physiology. Tinsley finally forced sound out of her throat. Baby, she said, high and trembling, still angled toward her phone. Tell her who I am. I didn't look away from the phone in my hand. 5 minutes, I said into the line. If you care about your image, your job, or your ability to walk into this building again without everyone whispering, you'll be here. Sterling's tone snapped into that polished CEO cadence, the one he used on donors and cameras. Lorelei, you're overreacting. I don't know what you think you heard. I'm in the middle of an investor tour. You can't just create a scene. My stomach tightened. Not because I doubted myself, but because of how familiar that tactic was. He always tried to make my reality sound like a mood. Tinsley, sensing his hesitation, lunged for control the only way she knew. She lifted her phone and cried louder. Guys, you hear that? That's him. That's Sterling Rhodes. He's literally telling her to calm down because she attacked me. This is what happens when you mess with hospital family, a nurse near the elevators muttered. Oh my God. Alvarez's face had gone stiff with disgust. He looked like he wanted to retire on the spot. Soren's voice finally cut in, low and clear. Mr. Rhodes, this is Dr. Maddox, head of emergency cardiology. I witnessed her deliberately dump coffee on Ms. Arden and then accuse her of assault. The other end of the call went silent again. Not because Sterling was shocked, because now another man's voice was on the record. A respected physician. A witness Sterling couldn't dismiss as emotional. What? Sterling said, clipped. Put me on with Lorelei only. I took one step closer to Tinsley so she could hear every syllable. You're already on with me, I said. And you're on with everyone. I hung up. The air in the lobby felt like it had been vacuum sealed. The usual noise of a hospital did not stop, but it got distant, like we were all underwater watching something unfold on the surface. Tinsley stared at me, blinking too fast. You're lying, she whispered. Then she seemed to remember the crowd and snapped her voice back up. You are lying. He loves me. He's coming for me. I didn't correct the word. Not yet. Instead, I turned to Alvarez. Officer, please call security command. Tell them to preserve footage from all lobby cameras starting 10 minutes ago. And tell them no one deletes anything. Alvarez nodded immediately, relief flooding his face. Yes, ma'am. Tinsley's eyes widened. You can't do that. I looked at her. I can do that. Her breathing sped up. She glanced around like she suddenly realized she was surrounded by people who knew how consequences worked. She tried a new tone, sugary and manipulative. Okay, listen, she said, stepping closer and lowering her voice like we were girlfriends. This doesn't have to be a thing, I get it. You're embarrassed. You look messy, but it's fine. I can tell Sterling you apologized. I can tell him you didn't mean it. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so revealing. She thought the world ran on who could spin the story first. I'm not embarrassed, I said quietly. I'm cold. Her face twitched. Behind her, I could see the coffee kiosk worker staring, eyes wide, hands frozen over the register. A family in the waiting area had stopped talking completely. Even the volunteer at the front desk had gone still, like she was watching a car wreck in slow motion. Tinsley glanced at her phone screen. The comments were moving fast. I couldn't read them, but I could see the way her eyes darted. The way her confidence was being eaten alive line by line. She tried to end the stream with a quick thumb movement. Don't, I said. She froze. I tilted my head. If you want the world to watch you bully a security officer and throw coffee on a stranger, keep recording. Don't rob yourself of the ending. Her throat bobbed. She swallowed hard. You're threatening me. No, I said. I'm giving you what you asked for, attention. Soren's phone buzzed and he glanced down, then back up at me. Rapid response is stable, he said softly. Patients in transit, he's okay. The relief in his voice was brief, quickly replaced by something else. Anger, yes, but also disappointment. The kind doctors feel when the institution they trust shows rot in public. Tinsley latched onto the word stable like it was her chance to regain the spotlight. She snapped her head toward Soren. And you, she spat. Stop acting like you're important. You're an employee here. Sterling pays you. Soren's eyes narrowed, and I felt him shift slightly, like he was making sure his body stayed between me and her. Not because she was physically dangerous, but because people like her were unpredictable when they started losing. You're right, Soren said. I am an employee. That's why I follow rules. You're an intern. That's why you should be terrified right now. She scoffed, but it sounded hollow. Then the elevator dinged. The private executive elevator on the far side of the lobby. The one most people didn't even notice, because it blended into the wall. Every head turned, the doors slid open, and Sterling stepped out like he'd been launched. His suit jacket was still on, but his tie was slightly off-center. His hair had that too perfect styling that looked deliberate until stress disturbed it. His face, though, gave him away. Not anger first. Fear. The kind of fear that leaks through a man's eyes when he realizes his two lives are colliding in public. He walked fast, not quite running, but close. His gaze swept the crowd, registering phones, faces, witnesses. Then his eyes landed on me. Coffee stains, damp blouse, my suitcase at my feet. And for half a second, I saw something raw in his expression. Not guilt, calculation. A man doing mental math in a panic. Tinsley made a sound like a sob of relief and practically launched herself toward him. Honey, Sterling stopped so abruptly, she almost slammed into him. His eyes flicked down to her hands, then to her badge, then to her phone still recording. He looked like he wanted to rip the device out of her grip and crush it with his heel. He forced a smile anyway, tight and unnatural. "Tinsley," he said, voice low. She reached for his arm, clinging. Tell her. She attacked me, and Dr. Maddox is lying because he's trying to protect her." Sterling's jaw clenched. His gaze shifted to Soren, then to Alvarez, then back to me. He took a breath, and the CEO mask slid on like armor. "Everyone," he said, raising his voice slightly, "please return to your duties. This is a private misunderstanding. Hospital operations must continue." No one moved, because the thing about a hospital is that people don't respect authority. They respect competence. And right now, Sterling looked like a man trying to clap smoke back into his hands. He stepped toward me, lowering his voice into the intimate tone he saved for our kitchen, our bed, our quiet moments. "Lorelei," he murmured, "why are you doing this here?" I met his eyes. "Why is she here?" I asked, just as softly. His pupils tightened. "She's an intern. She's confused. She's dramatic. You know how people get when they chase status." Tinsley gasped, loud and offended. "Excuse me." Sterling didn't look at her. That alone was a sentence. He kept his eyes on me, the performance shifting. "We can talk upstairs. We can handle this discreetly. You're making yourself look unstable." There it was, the old knife, the one he kept clean and sharp for me. I felt my heartbeat stay steady, even as my skin chilled from the sticky coffee drying against it. I leaned in just enough that only he could hear. "You're not going to do that," I said quietly. "Not today." His lips twitched. "Lorelei, don't be reckless." "Reckless is letting an intern live stream harassment in the lobby," I said. "Reckless is giving her the confidence to claim she's your wife." His face tightened, and for the first time, real anger flashed. "Lower your voice." I smiled slightly. "You first." Tinsley, desperate to regain control, stepped between us, pointing at me with shaking fingers. "Tell her who I am," she demanded. "Tell her you chose me. Tell her she's old news." Sterling finally looked at her, and I watched, fascinated and horrified, as his eyes went cold. Not cold like heartbreak, cold like damage control. "Tinsley," he said, voice flat, "stop talking." Her mouth fell open. "What?" He turned back to me, softer again, pleading now. "This is not what you think." I glanced at her badge clipped to her dress. "It says intern," I said. "What department?" Tinsley blinked. "Administration, VIP relations." I looked at Sterling. "VIP relations is not a clinical internship. That's a discretionary placement. That means someone signed off on her being here." Sterling's throat moved. "We needed more staffing." I tilted my head. "And the dress code." He didn't answer. Soren stepped closer, voice calm and lethal. "Mr. Rhodes, her badge was scanned at the executive elevator twice this week. That's not staffing. That's access." Sterling's eyes widened for a fraction of a second before he caught himself. He shot Soren a look that tried to be intimidating, but it landed like a threat from a man already cornered. "Doctor," Sterling said tight, "this is not your concern." Soren's smile was humorless. "Patient safety is my concern. Public misconduct is my concern. And an intern with executive access is everyone's concern." Sterling's nostrils flared. He looked around again, seeing the phones, the wide eyes, the stillness. Then he did what I knew he would do. He reached for my hand, a public gesture. A husband gesture, the picture he wanted. I pulled my hand back before he could touch me. The movement was small, but the crowd reacted. A ripple, a whisper, the story shifting in real time. Sterling's face tightened, and his voice turned lower, sharper. "You're going to regret embarrassing me." That sentence was quiet enough that only I heard it. But I heard it, and something inside me, something that had been patient for years, turned solid. I looked at him, then at Tinsley clinging to his side. And I realized the most important thing. He wasn't afraid of losing me. He was afraid of losing the building. I reached into my bag with slow care and pulled out my ID badge. I hadn't worn it. I hadn't flashed it. I'd kept it tucked away like a weapon I didn't want to use. I held it between two fingers and looked Sterling directly in the eyes. "You're right," I said softly. "We do need to handle this upstairs." Then I turned the badge so he could see the title under my name, and the color drained from his face. So fast it looked like someone pulled a plug. His jaw loosened, like the muscles forgot their job. Sterling stared at the badge in my fingers, then at my face, then back at the badge again. In that tiny loop of disbelief, I watched him realize what I had stopped being willing to do for him. I had stopped protecting him. Tinsley leaned forward, squinting as if the letters might rearrange themselves into something less terrifying. "What is that?" she whispered, voice cracking. "Why do you have that kind of badge?" I kept my eyes on Sterling. "Read it," I said. He did not. He could not. His throat worked as if he were trying to swallow a fist because my badge did not say visitor. It did not say department head. It said executive vice president, compliance and safety. Under that, in smaller print, it said board appointed. The hospital had always been Sterling's stage. Compliance was the trapdoor under it. A man behind me cleared his throat. The sound was small, but it anchored the moment. It was Alvarez, still holding his radio, still doing his job even while the people above him tried to turn the lobby into their personal theater. Sterling recovered first. He always did. It was his greatest skill. He could get punched in the truth and still stand up wearing a smile. "Lorelei," he said carefully, as if every word was glass, "you and I are going upstairs. Right now." I took one slow step back so he could not crowd my space. "No." His eyes flashed. "You cannot undermine me in front of staff." My mouth stayed relaxed. "You undermined yourself." Tinsley's hand clawed tighter around his sleeve. "Baby, tell her," she pleaded. "Tell her she's lying. Tell her she's nobody." Sterling did not look at her again. That told me everything I needed to know. He was already deciding what story would save him and who would be sacrificed to make it believable. He turned his attention back to me, voice dropping into that familiar private tone. "This is a misunderstanding. She's a problem. I will handle her. You and I will talk at home. You do not want this turning into a media clip." I let my gaze drift to the phones still raised around us. "It already is." He inhaled sharply. "Fine. Then give me your badge. You're emotional. You're jet-lagged. You're acting out." There it was again. The poison disguised as concern. The same move he used whenever I got too close to his hidden messes. I didn't argue. I didn't defend my sanity. I didn't give him the gift of a debate. Instead, I turned slightly and looked at Alvarez. "Officer, do you have the incident report template on your tablet?" "Yes, ma'am," he said immediately. "Start it," I said. "Include harassment of staff, unauthorized recording, dress code violation, and public disruption. Also include his threat to me. Time stamp it." Sterling's eyes widened. "I didn't threaten you." I met his stare. "You told me I would regret embarrassing you. In your own lobby, in front of witnesses, that counts." Soren's voice came low beside me. "It counts." Sterling's jaw tightened. He looked around for allies and found none. Even the nurses who used to laugh at his jokes in the cafeteria now looked at him like a stain they had stepped in. Tinsley finally understood she was falling, and she reached for rage because fear was too humiliating. "You think you can do this to me?" she snapped at me. "You think your little badge means anything? My husband runs this place." I turned to her for the first time fully. "Do you know what compliance does?" I asked. She blinked. "It makes sure people do not kill patients with shortcuts," I said. "It makes sure staff are not abused until they quit. It makes sure the hospital does not become a playground for someone's ego." Her face reddened. "I didn't do anything. She attacked me." I nodded slightly, like I was listening to a child insist the broken vase fell on its own. "The cameras say otherwise." Her lips parted. "What cameras?" "The ones you forgot exist," Soren said, his tone flat. "The ones that do not care about your followers." Sterling's voice cut in, sharper now. "Enough. Lorelei, you are not the board. You are not firing anyone." I didn't move. "I am not firing you," I said. "I am suspending your access under the emergency governance clause you signed when you took this job." The words landed hard. Sterling's face twitched. "That clause is for cyber attacks and disasters. A public compliance incident involving patient privacy is a disaster," I said. "An intern live streaming in the lobby is a disaster. An employee with unauthorized executive elevator access is a disaster." Tinsley's head whipped toward Sterling. "What does she mean, access? You told me it was fine." Sterling ignored her and stepped closer to me again, voice hissing. "You are bluffing." I smiled softly. "Try me." Then I pulled out my phone again and tapped one contact. Not a friend, not a favor, a duty. Thayer Callahan, board chair. It rang once. He picked up immediately. "Lorelei." I put him on speaker. "I am invoking the emergency governance clause," I said. "I need an immediate vote to place Sterling Rhodes on administrative leave pending investigation. The incident is in the main lobby. There are witnesses. There is video. There is unauthorized recording of patients and staff. There is evidence of executive access misuse." Silence, then a steady exhale. "Understood. Are you safe?" "Yes," I said, "but the hospital is not." Thayer's voice sharpened. "I am calling an emergency board meeting now. Security is to revoke Sterling's access and escort him to his office to collect personal items only, supervised. Lorelei, Appoint an interim operational lead until we vote on a replacement. I did not glance at Sterling when I answered. Chief Operating Officer Hayes is on site. I will hand it to him. Do it, Thayer said. And Lorelei, preserve everything. I already did, I said. The call ended. Sterling stood frozen. The last of his control had just been taken out of his hands by a voice he could not charm in a lobby full of witnesses. He tried one final tactic. He turned to the crowd, raising his hands like a politician caught in a scandal. Everyone, he said loudly, please do not be alarmed. There is a personal misunderstanding between my wife and an intern. Hospital operations remain stable. This is being handled privately. Soren stepped forward, voice calm, cutting through Sterling's attempt at order. Privacy laws were already violated, he said, and staff were already disrespected. This is not private. This is policy. A woman near the waiting area, a patient's mother, spoke up suddenly. Her voice shook with anger. My child is in pediatrics. If that girl was filming, my kid could be in her video. That is not private. Another voice joined. She was yelling at security. I heard everything. A nurse lifted her chin. I watched the coffee happen. The crowd was no longer an audience. It was a jury. Tinsley looked around, panic flashing across her face as she realized the room was turning on her too. She grabbed Sterling's arm again, nails digging into his sleeve. Say something, fix it. You promised me. Sterling finally snapped, and it was not at me. He jerked his arm away from her like she was poison. Stop touching me. Tinsley staggered back as if he'd hit her again. What? His eyes were wild now, not polished, not controlled. You were supposed to keep your mouth shut. You were supposed to act normal. You were supposed to stay in my office and wait. The entire lobby went still because he had just said the quiet part out loud. Tinsley's face crumpled. She whispered, You told me I was your future. Sterling's mouth opened, then shut. For a moment, I saw him consider denying it again. Then he saw my expression and realized denial would not work. So he tried to shift blame the way he always did. Lorelei, he said, voice pleading now, this is not what it looks like. She came after me. She pursued me. She kept showing up. She manipulated her way into the building. I was trying to be kind. I didn't want to humiliate her. My stomach turned. Even now, he was painting himself as a decent man trapped by other people's bad behavior. Tinsley let out a broken laugh. Kind, she whispered. You bought me a key card. You put my name on the VIP list. You told me the rules did not apply because you owned them. Soren's eyes narrowed. Who authorized her badge scan for the executive elevator? Sterling's face tightened. I didn't press him. I didn't need to. The truth was already doing the work. The doors near the security desk opened, and the chief operating officer, Hayes Brecken, walked in with two security supervisors behind him. He was tall, older, and not easily impressed by drama. His eyes took in the scene in one sweep, then landed on me. Lorelei, he said, respectful. I handed him my phone, showing the time-stamped call log and the board chair's directive text that had already arrived. Interim operations are yours, I said. Lock down access. Pull badge logs, preserve footage, all of it. Brecken nodded once. Done. He turned to Sterling without hesitation. Sir, he said, please come with us to your office. Your access has been temporarily revoked pending board review. Sterling's face went pale again. You can't revoke my access. Brecken's expression did not change. I can, I just did. Tinsley gasped, tears spilling, mascara smearing. Sterling, no, you can't leave me. Sterling looked at her like she was a stranger who had ruined his life. I don't know you, he said coldly. I watched her flinch as if struck. Not because the words were new, because this time they were public. Soren stepped slightly closer to Tinsley, not as comfort but as containment. Turn off the stream, he said quietly. Now. Her thumb hovered, trembling. She looked at me with raw hatred. You planned this. I thought about that for a moment, because in a way, she was right. Not the coffee, not the humiliation, not the exact moment, but the outcome. I had suspected Sterling for months. The late nights, the careful phone angles, the way his stories never lined up. I had started an internal audit quietly, not because I wanted to catch him cheating, but because cheaters in power rarely cheat only in bed. They cheat in budgets. They cheat in ethics. They cheat in policy. I had been waiting for the first undeniable crack. She had provided it in the form of iced coffee, so I leaned slightly toward her, voice soft enough to feel personal. You didn't ruin me, I said. You revealed him. Her lips trembled. Her eyes flicked to the crowd, the phones, the faces. For the first time, she looked small. Brecken signaled, and security moved in closer. not touching Sterling yet, but making it clear the argument was over. Sterling's gaze darted to mine one last time. There was something there, buried under panic and ego. Not remorse, not love, just the cold terror of losing the life he built on my silence. "You're really doing this," he whispered. I nodded once. "I am." Security escorted him toward the executive elevator. Supervised, contained, watched by the same staff he used to wave at like they were props. Tinsley tried to rush after him, sobbing, but a security supervisor blocked her path with an open palm. Brecken turned to her, voice firm. "Your badge," he said. She clutched it like it was oxygen. "No, you can't take it." Brecken's eyes were steady. "You are removed from duty pending investigation for patient privacy violations and misconduct. Hand it over." Her mouth opened, then she looked at me again, desperate and furious. "Please," she whispered like the word burned. "Tell them not to." I looked at Alvarez. "Officer," I said, "would you please file a formal staff complaint for harassment?" Alvarez's eyes shone with something like relief. "Yes, ma'am." I looked at Soren. "Doctor," I said, "would you please submit a witness statement?" He nodded, already writing it in my head. Tinsley's shoulders collapsed. Her hand moved slowly, unpinning the badge and dropping it into Brecken's waiting palm. The tiny plastic rectangle made a small sound when it hit his hand. It sounded like a door locking. The lobby began to breathe again. The normal hospital noise returned in pieces. Phones ringing, footsteps, the murmur of families, the world refusing to pause forever for anyone's scandal. Brecken looked at me. "Do you want a statement drafted for staff?" I shook my head. "Not yet. First we clean the inside." He nodded and walked away, already giving orders. I finally exhaled, feeling the last of the coffee dry against my skin. My blouse clung uncomfortably, but my spine felt straighter than it had in years. Soren stayed beside me. He didn't touch me. He didn't offer a dramatic speech. He just stood there steady. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. I looked at the place where Sterling had stood, then at the revolving doors where the summer heat shimmered outside. "I'm not okay," I said, "but I'm free." Soren's gaze softened. "Good." I glanced at Alvarez, who was still holding his tablet, still doing his work. "Thank you," I said to him, "for not backing down." His throat tightened. "Thank you for seeing it," he said. I picked up my suitcase. My clothes were stained. My hair was slightly loose from the knot. My body felt heavy, but my mind felt sharp. As I walked toward the hallway that led to compliance, a few staff members nodded at me. Not like I was royalty. Like I was someone who had finally done what they had all wanted to do but never could. Soren walked with me until the corridor split. "I'll check on the patient," he said. "I know," I said. He hesitated, then gave a small nod. "Lorelei, you did the right thing." I watched him turn away, his shoulders straight, his steps purposeful. The hospital needed people like him. People who did not fold when power tried to bend the rules. I continued down the hall alone, coffee-stained and calm, toward the office where the real work would begin. Because the most satisfying revenge is not a scream. It is a signature that changes who holds the keys.